The transfer talk is really gathering speed as Thomas Frank and Johan Lange narrowed down their list of targets to improve the first team at Spurs. Meanwhile, more chatter that Diego Simeone is doing everything he can to bring QT Romero to Madrid. What a surprise. And leaks from the club suggest that Bryan Mbeumo may not be the only possible incoming from Brentford. I'll also be discussing the transfer rumours from the rest of the Prem in today's episode of Daily Premier League Transfer News. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you're on YouTube, please do give this video a like. If you haven't already and you love my content, there is in fact 1 week to go in the voting for the Tottenham Hotspur YouTube Content Creators Awards. The link is in the description box below. Just click on that, and if you want to vote for me, I'm in about 3 or 4 categories. Please do give me a vote. Really appreciate your support. And that competition is run by the brilliant guys at Spurs Kings TV, so make sure you give them a follow and a subscribe if you haven't already. But let's get on with the transfer talk. As I'm sure you will have seen on Friday, there was a lot of big deal chatter from the Athletic, from David Ornstein, all the reputable transfer sources about Tottenham having made a bid for Antoine Semeno. And apparently the possibility of joining Spurs does appeal to the Bournemouth wide forward. However, Bournemouth's valuation, surprise, surprise, currently deemed too high for Spurs. And that is why they're not currently proceeding at present. But for me, this is like the kind of classic first shot across the bows, isn't it? Make an inquiry to the club. You find out from the club that they want £70 million. Both Bournemouth and Tottenham know they're not going to go to £70 million, considering we only paid £60 million for Dominic Solanke, who was their striker. And therefore, strikers carry far more value than even wide forwards. So therefore, Tottenham then leak to the press that they're interested in Semeno, that Semeno is keen on the move, and the dance begins from there. David Ornstein said his steep asking price has deterred Spurs and other suitors, thought to be Manchester United, from making a move at present. How do you feel about Antoine Semeno? I've said on a few videos with you guys, I really like him. I really like his physicality. I love how direct he is. Obviously, really excellent on the ball, can beat a man on either side, got a great shot on him, and has that Premier League experience that we know that Tottenham are looking for, not just this summer in terms of the manager they chose, but in terms of players who can get straight into that first team and really make an instant improvement. That's also why there's been a lot of talk this weekend as well, in the Daily Mirror, amongst other places, that Tottenham are again ramping up their interest in Eberechi Eze. Now, I think the thing that we would all love at Spurs is if for one summer we could actually buy 2 of these kind of players, 2 of these players at kind of maybe 50, 60 million pounds, who can go straight into the first team. And imagine what an improvement an Eze and a Semeno together could do in terms of the dynamic of the Tottenham first team, the energy, the pace, the ability to kind of make opposition teams doubt what is going to happen next. And how well would they supplement in terms of their physicality and, like I said, their drive and their forward-thinking nature on the pitch? How well would they supplement the likes of Wilson Odobert, of Matthias Tell, of course of Dominic Solanke, but also those kind of pacey wide players who are a bit younger and need a bit more time to get to the best of their play. I think these kind of players who are at 25, 26 would really, really massively improve Spurs. And I'd love Daniel Levy to push the boat out and try and get both of them in. Because I think Eberechi Eze, for instance, could play in the midfield. I think he could play as kind of an 8-10, especially if we're playing a double pivot of defensive midfielders under Thomas Frank. Then I think maybe, while Kulusevski is out injured, Eze could play either on the right or as the 10 if Maddison isn't playing. And that would just, I think it would just lift Tottenham's, just their strength. Not only their strength in depth, but their strength in terms of starting 11. And that's exactly what I'd love to see happen. As I mentioned in the opening, Diego Simeone apparently calls Christian Romero almost daily, attempting to convince him to leave Spurs and join Atletico Madrid. That's according to reports in Spain. Tottenham apparently want close to 60 million euros to sell him. I doubt that. I think their initial asking price will be far more than that. 60 million euros is about 50 million pounds. No way is Christian Romero going for that with 2 years left on his contract. So no, I don't doubt for a minute that Simeone is trying to do everything he can to get his Argentinian cohort over to Atletico Madrid. It's a no-brainer. You could see you could see Romero working with Simeone hand in glove, but they're going to have to pay. And we know, having seen the amount that Atletico Madrid have previously spent on the likes of João Felix and on getting Griezmann back, that they have been willing to spend huge transfer fees. And if they want someone of the ilk of Christian Romero, who has won a World Cup, 2 Copa Americas, a Europa League, and is a born winner, and one of the best ball-playing centre-backs on the planet, then they're going to have to spend. And if you go up to 80 million quid, you can have him. There you go. Simple as that, Diego. No need to call him anymore, mate. Just speak to your chairman and say, give me 80 million quid to get the best ball-playing centre-back on the planet into my club. But that's not really how transfers work. And they'll be trying to make Christian Romero go on strike. They'll be trying to make him come out in the press slagging off Daniel Levy again. They'll be trying all the tricks, I'm sure. But the fact that we're in the Champions League next season, I think, does give Spurs a bit more collateral. And I think probably at the least will make Romero intrigued to talk to Thomas Frank and see whether Thomas Frank really does feel the way that we've heard in some of these rumours that he does, which is that he really sees Christian Romero as a vital cog in the wheel and in the leadership group of Tottenham going forward. And I've said it a few times and got pelters from a lot of you in the comments about it. I would love Thomas Frank to give Christian Romero the leadership, the captaincy, and say to him, I want you to play in every game and I want you to lead this club in every single game in a disciplined, aggressive way and show the rest of them what it takes to win. And this season, do that in the league as well as in, some of the cup competitions and ideally get to another final, but really get us back to our best in the league. Okay, some more transfer rumours of potential ins. Spurs are keen on Lyon winger Malik Fofana. However, they are not the only Premier League club who are sniffing around. Also interested Chelsea, Newcastle, Everton, Fulham and Brighton. And frankly, if Brighton are interested in a young player that you're interested in, that can only be good news because their talent ID is absolutely brilliant. This is according to Julien Laurent, who's another respected transfer journalist. A fee between 40 and 45 million pounds has been quoted. The player would like to stay at Lyon for another season, but apparently they have some financial issues and need to balance the books. So, in what do we know about Malik Fofana? Well, he's 20 years old, so that, again, fits Tottenham's transfer strategy. Belgian international. Burst onto the senior stage in the 24-25 season with Lyon and seen as an electrifying talent. He started 16 games and came off the bench on 13 appearances, scored 5 goals and made 4 assists from the wide forward position. Very much an eye-catching return for a teenager at this level. But also he did well in Europe. In the Europa League, he featured in 10 fixtures and scored 6 goals as well as contributing an assist. So it's very, very impressive numbers and made him one of Lyon's top scorers in the past season. He's got high pass accuracy as well, 81%. And it's not just those clubs that have who are interested now who have been interested. Liverpool and Arsenal are also reported to have watched him closely previously. He's gone from promising youngster to a head-turning talent in under 18 months. And he has pace, precision, as well as personality on the ball. So another exciting talent to have come out of Belgium, and I love that Tottenham are being linked with these young, exciting players. I want Tottenham to become, as the years go on, as we build under Thomas Frank, I want us to be seen again as a team who are hard to play against, not just because of our physicality in the Premier League, which we need to improve, but also pace to burn from everywhere. I just think in the Premier League in these days, you need to have players with athleticism. No clubs who do well now do not have those players. And if we can get a good few of those in the squad, so we've always got pace on the pitch, even if we've got injuries, if let's say Wilson Odobert gets an injury like he did last season, we need pace to replace that as well, so that it's never easy for opposition to kind of sit back and just deal with us. Even against those teams who play a low block, we've got players who can beat them on the outside or on the inside. I just think that's so vital in the modern day Premier League. Okay, some more reports over the weekend on the latest in the Bryan Mbeumo hunt. Man United have reportedly improved their bid for Bryan Mbeumo, who's said to be leaning towards a move to them, but also other reports suggested he's leaning towards a move to Spurs. This was in the Standard. United saw an opening bid of £45 million plus 10 million in add-ons rejected by Brentford a week or two ago, with the West London club looking for £70 million to sell the 25-year-old. More reports also, according to Duncan Castles, that Bryan Mbeumo has not at any point communicated that he only wants to join Manchester United. Should both clubs meet the £70 million asking price, then there is a good chance that he might choose to reunite with Thomas Frank at Spurs rather than go to Old Trafford. Other reports slightly conflicting, though, that Tottenham could pull out of the hijack to sign Bryan Mbeumo. That is if Man United match the asking price, in which case they think he would choose United. But they don't want to spend more than £55 million, which is currently the sticking point. And as I mentioned before, Mbeumo is open to moving to Spurs, but I think his preference is Man United. But under Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he is desperate to stop the reputation that United have of just going to any money that clubs want for their players and to any wage amount that players' agents go for. He wants to see have United more on the footing of Tottenham under Daniel Levy, where they're known as hard negotiators. And that is why the Mbeumo deal isn't happening. And with players, honestly, sometimes what happens is if these kind of bidding wars get into situations where the player feels like a club isn't that bothered about him, then he will choose the club who decides to go higher in money and decides and kind of shows a willing to want to get them in earlier. That has happened time after time, and I could see that potentially happening with Mbeumo. I got a lot of pelters from a Man United fan on TikTok this weekend about a video I did about Mbeumo last week, saying, oh, he's definitely going to Man United, but nothing that I've seen over the weekend suggests that is absolutely nailed on at all. So let's see what happens. Be interesting. But if I were Bryan Mbeumo right now, I would just wonder whether, how badly do Man United actually want me if they're, fiddling over 10 million quid. I scored 20 goals in the Premier League last season. I'm proven at this level. If you want me as your main man, then you've got to pay. It's as simple as that, especially with the English club to English club tax. That's just the reality. You've got to pay £10 million more if you want to get a player from the Premier League. Okay, the another rumour that won't go away for Spurs, they've made an active inquiry for Xavi Simons to understand the desire on the player's side as well as the price. Nothing is advanced, and it could be that this is one that will happen later on in the window. A lot of you guys in the comments saying you'd love to see Xavi Simons at the club. For me, I'll just say now, I would choose a Semeno or an Eza over Simons just because of their experience in the Premier League, because of their physicality. I don't know if we need another player who could potentially easily get knocked off the ball in the Premier League and would take some time to acclimatise to that kind of strength needed. But there's no doubt that Simons is an excellent player and he would be a really exciting signing. I think in reality, fans do get a lot more pumped up and excited about an exciting signing from the foreign leagues because it's almost like, you've watched them on YouTube compilations, but you haven't seen them kind of day to day in matches on Sky or whatever. And Simons, do you remember that goal he scored for the Dutch against England in the semi-final? Was it last summer? Yeah, last summer. Absolute banger into the top corner. He's undoubtedly an incredibly talented player, and I'd love to see him at the club, but I wouldn't choose him over Eza or Antoine Semeno. As I mentioned in the opening, some more reports that Thomas Frank is keen to go back to Brentford, maybe for more than just Bryan Mbeumo. They're eyeing a formal move apparently to sign Yoane Wissa. It's believed that Brentford would want £40 million for Wissa, who is 28 years old now. Brentford, according to some other reports, have put a £50 million price tag on Wissa. Other clubs are interested, including Nottingham Forest, Arsenal, and the Turkish clubs Jose's Fenerbahce and Galatasaray, who are splashing the cash this summer. Galatasaray got Leroy Sané in on an absolutely obscene amount of wages. Okay, other reports that Spurs could turn their attention to Paris Saint-Germain forward Kangin Lee, with Son Heung-min's potential departure to Saudi Arabia looming and Bryan Mbeumo edging closer to Man United, according to some reports anyway. Lee apparently could be seen as the perfect solution to Spurs. Paris Saint-Germain would apparently want €55 million, which is about £45 million. I'm always a little wary of these links to other Korean players. Like the kind of angle that you see in these articles is, Sonny's leaving, so Daniel Levy will need a face of South Korea again. I don't think it's as simple as that. I would really love to think that the recruitment team under Johan Lange are a little more data driven and kind of, driven by what Thomas Frank currently needs, rather than being willing to accept Daniel Levy coming in the door and saying, oh, by the way, we need someone from South Korea so we can continue to sell the same amount of stuff in the club shop on a match day. I don't think that's going to be how it works, even if Sonny does leave. Look, if Sonny does leave, the way we need to look at it is we were so lucky to have him not only as a legend on the pitch and a brilliant, brilliant footballer, but we were so lucky to get that commercial kind of bounce from Sonny for over 10 years. I don't think we should look to kind of strategically and cynically replace that. I think everyone is probably a bit too clever for that, and having a South Korean player who isn't brilliant enough to get straight into the team, I don't think would really help Tottenham Hotspur in the long run to replace Sonny. That's how I feel about it anyway. Tottenham have made an inquiry for Juventus forward Timothy Weah. Now, this isn't the first time we've been linked with him. He was on the list back in January as well. 4 clubs, according to Foot Mercato, are targeting Weah, the international from Juventus. Everton are also on that list. I'm always a little wary of being linked with players who Everton are also linked with. That is kind of swimming in the transfer waters that I feel like we can do a little better on. But here's some of his information and some of his stats from the last season. 25 years old, joined Juventus in July 2023. Originally has played back at Paris Saint-Germain, Lille and Celtic. Often starting as a forward, but can also play as a wing back or a full back. So that does show some different options on the pitch that maybe Thomas Frank would like. 41 appearances across all comps last season, 6 goals, 5 assists. In Serie A, 29 matches, 5 goals, 3 assists. So good numbers, really decent numbers. 9 appearances, 1 goal, 1 assist in the Champions League. He has had some hamstring issues. So considering how many injury problems Tottenham have suffered with over the past 2 years under Big Ange Postecoglou, as I said in a video last week, not desperate for us to go for players who have had previous hamstring issues, to be honest. But he's an attack-minded winger, loves to press high, pacey with physical endurance and tactical versatility, as I mentioned. So he could be one to keep an eye on, especially if he's available at a decent price. And frankly, as we keep hearing, the possibility of Don Fabio Paratici coming back in July is high. And if that is the case, then in reality, he loves doing deals in the Italian market. So that could well be one to keep an eye on. Let's see. Also, lots of talk over the weekend that Spurs have considered a move. This came from Ali Gold. Potentially later in the window to bring Kyle Walker-Peters back as a free agent. And of course, he would be a club-trained option, so would be able to go straight into our Champions League squad, because we do currently have registration issues in terms of how many club-trained players we have. However, listen, if I'm Kyle Walker-Peters, and I've said this before as well, he left Spurs to get first-team football. He got that at Southampton. He played nearly 200 games for Southampton as well, in the Championship and in the Premier League. He's shown that he's a half-decent fullback. He's got a couple of England caps, I think, as well, but he can play left-back or right-back. Now, does he want to come back to Spurs to be realistically 4th choice? He's 28 years old now. For me, that just wouldn't make sense. If I were him, if I were his agent, if I were his family, I'd be a little reticent to do that. And also, if Tottenham are saying to them, oh, we might well bring you back, but wait till towards the end of the window. If I'm Kyle Walker-Peters, I'm like, no, this move is one of the most important moves in my career. And there are some rumours that Everton are interested in him. If I were Kyle Walker-Peters and David Moyes wanted me as one of his starting fullbacks, I'd probably be tempted to go there. But let me know what you think in the comments. Some reports again from Italy, so probably a Don Fabio Paratici rumour. Spurs, one of the clubs showing a strong interest in the transfer of Parma Wonderkid central defender Giovanni Leone. Spurs apparently considering making an opening offer of 25 million euros for the emerging Italian centre-back. Shown himself to be a key defensive player for Parma in the previous season. 17 Serie A matches, 14 starts, 3 as a substitute. Scored his first top-flight goal as well for Parma, a towering header. He helped them achieve 3 clean sheets. He averaged approximately 5.3 duels per game, 17 aerial duels and 2.5 recoveries. And he was developed through youth setups at Padova, amongst other clubs. and has had a couple of loan deals as well. Parma signed him permanently back in August 24 for 4.8 million, and he became a regular starter under Christian Chivu. On the international stage, he's represented Italy in under 18, under 19 level, and looks like a promising defender as he transitions from youth to senior football. Again, fits with Tottenham's transfer strategy, fits with Fabio Paratici being on his iPhone headphones all the time, and there has been some other buzz around him with Juventus and Arsenal potentially also interested, so keep an eye on that one. Also, in terms of the club-trained options, that is why Tottenham are also being linked with Sunderland fullback Dennis Cirkin, who we sold to Sunderland, I think probably like 3 or 4 years ago. A young, exciting Tottenham Academy player. He's had loads of minutes at fullback for Sunderland and now is interesting Spurs. Sunderland want to keep him. They're having contract talks with him, but they run the risk of him running down his contract and him leaving on a free agent. So that is why Tottenham are sniffing about, as well as because of the club trained option. And that is another one to keep an eye on for the rest of the window. Basically, if you're not aware, in the Champions League, you need to have a certain number of club-trained players. And at the moment, I'm pretty sure that Tottenham only have one because the under-21s don't count. So it's got to be players who I think have been at the club for over 2 or 3 years between the ages of 18 and 21, something like that. And Tottenham, I think, only currently have one in the squad. So that means that of the 25-man squad you can pick for the Champions League, you have to leave spaces if you don't have that. So if you were to buy, in this instance, a Kyle Walker-Peters or a Dennis Cirkin, they can then go straight into that squad instead of having no one available. So that is why Tottenham are looking at those players. According to Tom Barkley, Spurs would like to sign Rodrigo Benta to a new contract. However, if they can't, a departure will not be ruled out with, once again, guess who? Diego Simeone sniffing around one of our South American players. With 1 year left, how much would you look to get for Rodrigo Benta? I think if we got something like 35 million pounds for him, if he was refusing to sign a new contract, then that's something. But I'd want to see him play under Thomas Frank because, like I said, I think he'll choose to play a double pivot, and that, I think, basically gives a new chance to players like Yves Bissouma, Rodrigo Benta, and of course Archie Gray to prove, can they play in a double pivot rather than in the kind of single pivot that was being played under Ange Postecoglou, where basically the 6 in the Tottenham shape was just left absolutely isolated the whole time. It doesn't look like Spurs are going to get Rooney Bargi from Copenhagen. Barcelona are well ahead in that race, apparently, and Porto also interested. I don't know if you saw this on social media, but if you haven't, dig it out. Matthias Tell scored the winner as France defeated Denmark 3-2 to advance to the semi-finals of the Under-21 Euros yesterday. Really good finish in the last 5 minutes for Matthias Tell. Speaking of whom, Thomas Frank has given some quotes about him. He says he's very, very excited about Matthias signing on a permanent deal. I think he's a very talented player who can play across the 4 front positions. He's a goal scorer that we can develop even further to be more consistent in his all-round game and consistently land in the right positions in the box. I'm looking forward to working with him. And then just a tiny bit of news from the back end of last week. Spurs were fined £75,000 by the Football Association following homophobic chanting by their fans during a 3-0 win at Old Trafford last season. Okay, guys, before I go into the other Premier League transfer news, once again, thank you so much for watching. If you like my content, do give it a like here on YouTube. Do please subscribe to the channel. The button's in the bottom right-hand corner there for daily transfer news, starting, of course, always with Tottenham Hotspur during this window. Also, as I said at the top, if you like the cut of my jib and you want to vote for me in the Tottenham Hotspur YouTube Content Awards, the link is in the description box. Just click on that, and I think I'm nominated in 3 or 4 of the categories. Give me a vote. Barnaby Slater, thank you so much. Okay, I'll just quickly rush through some of the other Premier League transfer news from over the last few days. Man United are now interested in Moise Kean, apparently, from Fiorentina, the ex-Everton player. His release clause is about £44.5 million. That would surprise me. Moise Kean has improved a lot, but he didn't rip it up in the Premier League, so I'm not sure about that. AS Monaco are considering signing Andre Onana. A move from Juventus for Jadon Sancho depends on whether the Italian club sign Francisco Conceição from Porto or not. Over to Liverpool, they signed Milos Kerkez and Florian Wirtz on Friday. They've done really well to get ahead. Man City and Liverpool jumping ahead of all the other clubs with their signings. A lot of Spurs and Arsenal fans, Man United fans getting more and more frustrated that they are not able to get any of their deals done early in the way that Liverpool and Man City have. Very frustrating. Liverpool also expects to make a significant offer for Mark Gay, who Palace have to sell this summer. Although Gay has suggested he's prepared to see out the final year of his contract, and that is why Palace want to get some money for him. Spurs offered 55 million plus 15 million in add-ons in January. So Liverpool will have to get somewhere near that if they're going to sign him. And the reason they could be looking for a centre-back is because Bayer Leverkusen are close to an agreement to sign Gerald Quansah. Personal terms, no issue, and the deal would be around 40 million euros. Over to Chelsea, a bit of a surprise one, although it shouldn't be a surprise because let's face it, Chelsea just try and hoover up every single player. They've entered into negotiations with Paris Saint-Germain to sign Kolo Muani, who of course was heavily linked with Spurs back in January. Paris Saint-Germain bought him for £76 million in 2023, but they're ready to cash in. And of course, Chelsea always willing to spend some cash. Bayern Munich have entered the race for Jamie Gittens, who it looked like was going to go to Chelsea. They're willing to offer £55 million for the Dortmund winger. And over at South Woolwich, they are among the clubs monitoring Noni Madueke, who is able to leave Chelsea this summer. Also, South Woolwich could back out of a deal for Benjamin Sesko because of the Slovenia international's wage demands. Victor Gyökeres has apparently informed his friends and family that he wants to join South Woolwich over Manchester United. Their move for Rodrigo has also hit a wage stumbling block. Arsenal unwilling to spend all of that money. And Miles Lewis-Skelly is close to signing a new contract for him. As much as I hate to say it, I think Lewis-Skelly is a good player and will probably be England's number one left back for years to come. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate your support. Please do press like. Please do subscribe. Give me a vote in the Content Awards. And if you'd like to give me a little rating and follow or subscribe on the audio podcast platforms, Spotify or Apple Podcasts, just go over there, type in the Spurred On podcast and give me a follow over there. I'd really appreciate it. Enjoy your Monday, guys. Cheers.